everybody, and thank you for joining us for another segment of Wildlife Wednesday. I'm Rachel, and today we're going to be joining Bree, our rehabilitation manager down at the hospital, to be talking more about gopher tortoises. With gopher tortoises, we'll be covering a little bit about why they come into us as a crow patient and really the efforts that it takes for our medical team to get them back out into the wild. Since they are a cold-blooded or ectothermic patient, it does take them quite a bit longer than it does our bird or mammal patients. And we'll hear the tips of the trade with Bree as to how we make that happen.
Hey Bree, where are we located right now?
We are outside at our small flight enclosure. It is currently being used to house several different gopher tortoises who are here rehabbing following being hit by cars. So this afternoon we're going to go in, we're going to take a look at all of our tortoises. We'll do a basic wellness check, make sure they're doing well this afternoon. They were doing great this morning. We'll peek at their fracture sites, make sure everything looks nice and healthy. Once they're living outside full time, they can get filled with dirt and debris and everything, so sometimes we have to bring them back inside, flush them out, make sure they stay nice and clean. So we're just gonna go in, we're gonna find all of our tortoises, we're gonna take a peek at them, make sure they look okay this afternoon, and then we'll go from there.
Now Bree, you said all the ones out here right now are here because of vehicle trauma. Is that pretty common with our gopher tortoises?
It is, especially during this season. Our gopher tortoises that are coming in, a lot of them are females and they do have eggs, just like with a lot of the turtles that have come in recently as well. They happen to be crossing the road to find a better grazing site. They have a very good sense of smell, so they know where all the good foods are located. And if that is across the street, not everybody's quick enough to stop for them when they start running across the road. And when I say running, these guys can move pretty quickly, so it's not surprising.
Okay. So Bree, when we were in there, I saw that you were looking not only at the fracture sites, but you were also looking at their limbs and their heads. Why is all of this important when you're doing a wellness check on a gopher tortoise?
Well, there's a couple things that we can determine just from looking at their skin. So if we look at their face, if we notice that they have bubbles coming out of their eyes and it's midday, it's really hot, they could be overheating out here. Nobody had bubbly eyes, everyone looked well hydrated, which I can also tell from the eyes whether they look sunken or not. So I was looking to determine, are they dehydrated? Do they need fluids? Do they need a little bit of time inside to recover from the heat? Everyone looked great. I always check their arms and legs too, because if they're gonna get released back into the wild, we need to make sure they have enough muscle on their legs to, 1, dig burrows, 2, dig burrows and lay eggs, and 3, move quickly enough to avoid any future incidents when it comes to humans, cars, animals, predators, or anything else.
Okay, and then one final question, Bree. I saw that with the fractures, there were different ways to apply, or really to fix them. I saw some that had what looks like grommets, while others I saw that there was zip ties mounted on there, and even tubes coming out of their necks. So what are all those things in relation to their healing?
Sure. So depending on the fracture, where it's located, how much tension there might be at the fracture site, we can determine to use different methods of closing a fracture. So a couple of the basic methods, you can take a certain type of tape and it will actually hold the fracture site together if it's in a place that doesn't require a lot of tension, so along the bridge or the side of the tortoise. Now for some of the more serious fracture sites, we do use grommets, bra hooks, and zip ties to actually epoxy on the shell, pull back together, and it acts just like sutures. Now for some of them, we also had wire that you would have seen coming out. That also helps hold the shell together, but in certain places, especially along the very outer edges of the shell, we can actually drill straight through the edges of the shell, and we can wire that shell back together so we don't have to place screws or anything else invasive like that. Now the tubes that you were seeing, several of these tortoises have feeding tubes, so they go straight down into their bellies, and the reason for that is because their heads are very strong, their jaws are very strong. If they're getting oral medications daily or every other day, we don't want to be invasive in pulling their heads out of their shell, forcing their mouth open just to give them medications. So by having a feeding tube that goes straight to the stomach, we eliminate all of that unnecessary pulling and tugging and, unfortunately causing them to be upset with us, whereas with the feeding tube, it's very easy, minimally invasive, and they reap the benefits of it.
Thank you, Bree, for sharing all of that wonderful information with us, as well as taking us down to the hospital in the rehabilitation areas. As you saw from this segment, many of our cages are multi-purpose, which means they can be converted from one animal to another. Usually this cage is used for some of our smaller flight raptors, like our eastern screech owls and red-shouldered hawks, but our medical team was able to convert it temporarily into a gopher tortoise rehabilitation space. Thank you everybody for joining us today for Wildlife Wednesday. We hope you enjoyed what you learned today on this segment. If you did, please click on the donate button above this link and continue to tune in with us next week. Have a good day.